Hello, everybody, and welcome to another Boomi How-To. In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to add the transaction ID from the gateway access logs to your HTTP shared server logs on your Atom runtime. Now, why would you want to do this? Normally, the way you would sort of compare the entries between the gateway access logs and the gateway and the shared web server logs is looking at the timestamp in the actual logs themselves. Because a gateway access log entry will correspond to a shared web server entry it is gateway, if it's configured for gateway authentication, and if the request actually made it there. For example, right, I'll pull up the gateway access logs and the shared web server logs for my test gateway. So here you can see entries. These were made to my Hello World API. I have a 200 response, then I have a 403, right? You're not going to see the 403 because it stopped at the gateway, but we should see these 200 responses on the shared web server side. All of these on the gateway access logs have a transaction ID associated with them. The shared web server logs do not. So the best way we have now to correlate execution that was caused or triggered by a gateway is from the is by looking at the timestamp of the actual execution. So this execution just from the timestamp would correlate to this one. That can be tedious to actually do and correlate. So to make things easier, we can actually add a property to the shared web server on our Atom to make it so the transaction ID appears in the shared web server logs. So we can just control F and search that entry rather than look at timestamps. To add this property, we're going to navigate to integration, services integration, manage, Atom management. We're going to click on our Atom runtime. It can be molecule, cloud, whatever, that is running with gateway authentication and that you want to have this property enabled on. We're going to go to properties. We're going to go to custom. And for container property, we're going to add a property. The property name is going to be com.boomi.container.shared server.http.log.gateway transaction ID. Don't worry, this will be in the description of the video for you to copy. And the value of this property is going to be set to true. Once we have that configured, we can save. This is going to require a restart of the Atom, and we'll do that. This only needs to be applied to the Atom as well. You don't need to apply this to the gateway itself. It might take a couple minutes for my gateway to restart, so I will see you in a couple minutes once the gateway has fully restarted. Okay, as we can see, the gateway has restarted. This was about a minute ago, so the property should now be applied to our Atom. And remember, you only need to apply this to your Atom runtime, not your gateway. So just here in the Atom properties, custom, add it here. Let me show you what it looks like in the actual logs itself. So I have an API call, got a 200 response, hello world. I'll make 3 separate calls. They're all going through my gateway. Come back to the gateway, download the logs, come back to the Atom, and we'll download the shared web server logs. Pull up the gateway access logs. We'll pull up the shared web server logs. So here are our two most recent calls, the 200 response, and we have a transaction ID of 48 as the starting. It ends with F1, and then C7 that's the start, and then BB as the end. So I'll copy this transaction ID, go into the shared web server, and then Control F, paste it. We'll count. We see one match, and there it is. It's going to be appended at the very end of the entry, right after the execution. And we can see if we scroll up to an earlier one, we don't have those transaction IDs. It's only after we added that property that we see the correlating transaction ID added to the Atom runtime shared web server logs. And it just makes it a lot easier, as you can see. I didn't have to scroll through it. I can just copy this one if I think there's something wrong with it, paste it in there, and then help correlate them. And you'll only see these entries if the request made it to the shared web server. So if there was like a timeout, or some other like issue between the gateway and the Atom, um, and it never made it to the Atom shared web server, you're not going to see the entries in there. But that does it for this video. Thank you for watching and have a great rest of your day.